Gorillas are fascinating creatures and the largest of the primates. They are primarily found in Central and Western Africa, with two main species, the eastern gorilla, which includes the mountain gorilla and the eastern lowland gorilla, and the western gorilla, which includes the western lowland gorilla and the cross-river gorilla. Here's a breakdown of some key points about them. Physical characteristics. Size. Adult male gorillas, called silverbacks, can weigh between 300 to 485 pounds, 136 to 220 kilograms, and stand about 5.5 to. Females are typically smaller. Strength. Gorillas are incredibly strong, with the ability to lift or carry large amounts of weight, sometimes up to 10 times their own body weight. Hair. They have thick, dark fur, with silver or gray hair on the back of adult males, which gives them the silverback name. A typical group consists of one silverback, several females, and their offspring. The silverback is responsible for protecting the group and making key decisions. Communication. They communicate with a variety of sounds, gestures, and facial expressions. This includes grunts, roars, and even chest pounding to signal danger or assert dominance. Diet. Gorillas are primarily herbivores, with their diet consisting mainly of leaves, stems, fruit, and bamboo. They also eat small insects occasionally. Despite their size and strength, they mainly consume plant-based foods. Behavior. Gorillas are generally gentle and shy, and they spend most of their time on the ground. They build nests from branches and leaves every night to sleep in. They are very intelligent, able to use tools like sticks or rocks to get food or defend themselves, and some have even been taught to communicate using sign language or symbol boards in captivity. Conservation. Endangered status. Gorillas are critically endangered, particularly the mountain gorilla, which has seen slight recovery due to conservation efforts. The primary threats to gorillas include habitat loss due to deforestation, poaching, and diseases like Ebola. Conservation efforts. Several organizations are working to protect gorillas through anti-poaching laws, habitat preservation, and wildlife tourism, which provides a sustainable income for local communities. Cultural significance. Gorillas have held cultural significance in various societies, often symbolizing strength, leadership, and family bonds. They have also inspired a lot of research in primate behavior, as their social structures and cognitive abilities are highly similar to those of humans. Interesting facts. Gorillas share about 98% of their DNA with humans, making them one of our closest living relatives. The mountain gorilla population has shown signs of recovery, with around 1,000 individuals now in the wild, largely due to successful conservation strategies and Sure, let's dive even deeper into some interesting aspects of gorillas, especially focusing on their behavior, intelligence, conservation efforts, and relationships with humans. Social dynamics and behavior. Family structure. The family structure of gorillas is quite fascinating. The silverback not only leads the group but also serves as the protector. The silverback makes the decisions about where the group travels and when they rest. Other males in the group are typically not fully mature and may leave or form their own groups. Females often stay with the same group for life, while males may disperse to find other groups or remain solitary. Subordinate roles. In gorilla groups, there's a clear hierarchy, but it's mostly peaceful. The silverback is the undisputed leader, but subordinates, like the younger males or older females, still play important roles. Interestingly, silverbacks often allow the younger males to challenge them for dominance, as long as the challenges are respectful. Maternal care. Female gorillas are very devoted mothers. A typical birth interval for a female is 4 to 6 years, with one offspring at a time. The bond between mother and child is strong, with the mother caring for her baby for several years until the infant is old enough to start foraging on its own and socializing with others. Playful nature. Despite their size and strength, gorillas can be very playful, especially the young ones. Infants often engage in wrestling, chasing, and other playful behaviors, which helps with social bonding and physical development. Even adult gorillas sometimes engage in play, especially with familiar individuals. Intelligence and problem solving. Tool use. Gorillas have been observed using tools in the wild, a behavior once thought to be limited only to humans and certain other primates. In one case, a gorilla in the wild used a stick to fish for termites, showing an understanding of how to manipulate the environment to access food. This behavior demonstrates problem-solving skills and the ability to use natural objects in inventive ways. Cognitive ability. Gorillas are highly intelligent, with cognitive abilities similar to those of chimpanzees and orangutans. In captivity, gorillas have been taught sign language to communicate with humans. Koko, the famous western lowland gorilla, learned over 1,000 signs and was able to communicate about feelings, objects, and even abstract concepts like the idea of missing someone or sadness. Emotional complexity. Like humans, gorillas experience a wide range of emotions such as joy, grief, fear, and affection. When a group member dies, gorillas have been observed exhibiting signs of mourning, such as remaining near the body for extended periods, acting listless, or even touching the deceased's body. Conservation challenges. Habitat loss. Deforestation is one of the greatest threats to gorillas. In many parts of Africa, forests are being cleared for agriculture, logging, and human settlements. As gorillas lose their natural habitats, they are forced into smaller, fragmented areas, which leads to reduced access to food and safety. Poaching and illegal trade. Gorillas are hunted for bushmeat in some regions, and while hunting gorillas is illegal in many countries, it still persists due to the demand for wild meat. Additionally, young gorillas are sometimes captured and sold on the black market as pets, or for display in zoos. Disease. Gorillas, like humans, are susceptible to diseases, and there have been incidents where human-caused diseases like respiratory infections have severely affected wild populations. Diseases like Ebola, which can cause mass die-offs in ape populations, also represent a significant threat. Ecotourism and conservation efforts. The rise of ecotourism has helped fund conservation efforts and improve the protection of gorillas in the wild. Tourists who visit gorillas in their natural habitat provide funding for local communities and conservation initiatives. For example, the Virunga National Park in the Democratic Republic of Congo has been crucial in preserving mountain gorillas. This model of conservation, where locals are actively involved in protecting the gorillas, has proven effective in boosting populations. International partnerships. Organizations like the World Wildlife Fund, WWF, Gorilla Doctors, and the Mountain Gorilla Conservation Fund are instrumental in conducting research, funding protection programs, and supporting local communities. These efforts have helped increase the mountain gorilla population, which has risen from around 600 individuals in the 1980s to over 1,000 today. Human-gorilla relationships. Gorillas in captivity. Gorillas in zoos have played a huge role in increasing public awareness of conservation issues. They are often used as ambassadors for their species, and educational programs about gorillas in zoos have inspired people to support conservation efforts. However, captivity can be controversial as gorillas need large spaces to roam, and many argue that their mental health suffers in confined environments. Cultural symbolism. Throughout history, gorillas have been depicted as symbols of strength, intelligence, and vulnerability. In African folklore, gorillas are sometimes portrayed as wise or powerful figures. In Western media, they've been shown as both fearsome beasts and sensitive, misunderstood characters. King Kong is perhaps the most famous fictional gorilla, but the portrayal of gorillas in the media has evolved to reflect a greater appreciation of their intelligence and emotional depth. Ethical considerations. As humans continue to explore ways to interact with gorillas, whether in the wild or in captivity, ethical concerns are raised regarding their treatment. Should gorillas be taken from the wild for research or entertainment? How do we balance their conservation needs with human development? These are tough questions that conservationists, researchers, and ethicists continue to address. Final thoughts on gorillas. Gorillas are more than just powerful creatures. They are social beings with complex emotional lives and intelligence. Their ability to communicate, form lasting relationships, and solve problems shows just how much we have in common with them. Despite the challenges they face, conservation efforts have made a significant impact, especially with mountain gorillas, who are slowly recovering due to careful management and the dedication of local communities and international organizations. Gorilla behavior. More intricacies. Grooming. One of the most important social behaviors among gorillas is grooming. Gorillas spend a lot of time grooming one another, particularly the silverback and his females. This behavior helps to strengthen social bonds within the group. It's also a practical necessity, as it helps to remove parasites, dirt, and debris from their fur. Grooming is also an opportunity for gorillas to check on the health of group members, and is a form of social communication. Play. Play is essential in the development of gorillas, especially young ones. Gorilla infants engage in a variety of playful behaviors, including mock fighting, chasing, and swinging from trees. These play activities not only help the young gorillas practice physical skills, but they also help them build social relationships with other group members. The older gorillas sometimes participate in play, particularly if they feel secure within their family unit. Nesting. Every evening, gorillas build a nest, usually on the ground, but sometimes in trees if the terrain allows. These nests are made from branches, leaves, and other natural materials. This behavior is important because it shows that gorillas exhibit a high level of foresight, preparing a place to rest before the day's end. Interestingly, gorillas will often change locations each night to avoid predators and to ensure they stay safe. Gorillas in the wild. Key habitats. Mountain gorilla habitat. The mountain gorilla primarily inhabits the volcanic mountains of the Virunga Massif in Central Africa, which spans the border regions of Rwanda, Uganda, and the Democratic Republic of Congo. The habitat here is dense, misty, and covered in thick vegetation, ideal for gorillas that prefer cooler, mountainous environments. This region is also home to other wildlife, such as elephants, buffalo, and various species of birds. The cold temperatures and steep terrain make it difficult for humans to reach, which helps protect gorillas from poaching to some degree. Lowland gorilla habitat, on the other hand. Western lowland gorillas live in the lowland rainforests of Central Africa, specifically in countries like Cameroon, the Central African Republic, and Gabon. These forests are dense and humid, providing ample food sources for gorillas. They live in smaller, less cohesive groups than the mountain gorillas, and they often range over larger areas, with more room for foraging and movement. Cross-river gorillas. A small population of cross-river gorillas lives in a small, isolated region along the border of Cameroon and Nigeria. They are one of the most critically endangered subspecies, with fewer than 300 individuals left. This gorilla's range is limited by the rivers, valleys, and mountains, and it faces extreme pressures from habitat destruction, human encroachment, and disease. Gorilla conservation success stories. Mountain gorilla conservation. The most celebrated success story in gorilla conservation is undoubtedly the mountain gorilla. Thanks to a combination of anti-poaching efforts, tourism revenue, habitat protection, and community involvement, the population of mountain gorillas has grown over the past few decades. The Virunga region, where these gorillas live, has seen a reduction in poaching, and local communities are increasingly involved in conservation efforts. The success of the Gorilla Doctors, a veterinary group that provides medical care to injured or sick gorillas, has also been a crucial component in keeping the population healthy. For instance, in the 1980s, there were fewer than 250 mountain gorillas, but today, there are over 1,000. Tourism and its impact. Ecotourism has played a significant role in conservation. Controlled gorilla trekking, where visitors are guided to observe gorillas in the wild, has provided crucial funding for conservation efforts. In Rwanda, Uganda, and the DRC, gorilla trekking permits are costly, which generates millions of dollars that go directly into protecting these endangered species. The funds are also used for local development projects, ensuring that communities around the gorillas benefit from conservation efforts, creating a positive feedback loop. Forest restoration in some areas. There have been successful efforts to restore gorilla habitats that have been damaged by logging and human encroachment. Some conservation groups have partnered with local governments to plant native trees and establish protected areas. The Gorilla Organization, for example, has supported reforestation efforts in areas that are crucial for gorillas, helping to preserve not only the gorilla's habitat, but also the rich biodiversity of the rainforest ecosystems. Challenges to gorilla conservation. Political instability. One of the major challenges facing gorilla conservation efforts is the political instability in many parts of Central Africa. Conflict in the Democratic Republic of Congo, for instance, has put both park rangers and gorillas at risk. The presence of armed militia groups has made it difficult to patrol areas and ensure the safety of these animals. The risk of poaching is particularly high in these unstable areas, and conservationists often face grave dangers when trying to protect the gorillas. Illegal pet trade. In some regions, young gorillas are taken from the wild and sold as exotic pets. This is particularly problematic for western lowland gorillas, which are more often the target of this illegal trade. These infant gorillas are often smuggled across borders, and many died due to poor living conditions. Efforts to curb the illegal pet trade have included stricter law enforcement and public awareness. Campaigns to educate people on the dangers of trafficking these animals. Ethical considerations in gorilla conservation, captivity and welfare. One of the most pressing ethical concerns surrounding gorillas, especially those in zoos or research facilities, is whether it is right to keep these highly intelligent and social animals in captivity. While some argue that captive gorillas help raise awareness and fund conservation efforts, others argue that captivity severely limits their social and cognitive needs. In the wild, gorillas have vast territories, and they live in tight-knit social groups. In captivity, they are often confined to much smaller spaces, and their social interactions can be limited, which may lead to mental and physical health issues. Furthermore, captive gorillas may develop abnormal behaviors such as pacing or repetitive movements, a sign of stress or boredom. Research versus exploitation. Another ethical dilemma centers around using gorillas in research. While studying gorillas in their natural habitat or in controlled environments can lead to valuable insights into primate behavior, communication, and cognition, there's the concern of exploiting these animals for scientific or entertainment purposes. Some research may require invasive techniques or restrict their movement, which raises questions about the balance between advancing knowledge and ensuring the well-being of the animals involved. Conservation through education. Many zoos and wildlife reserves engage in conservation education, emphasizing the importance of preserving wild habitats and supporting ethical research. Visitors learn about the threats gorillas face in the wild and the ways they can help in the fight to protect them. However, it's crucial that these educational facilities prioritize animal welfare, providing gorillas with enriched environments that allow them to express their natural behaviors. Gorillas in the community. Local involvement in conservation. Community-based conservation. One of the keys to successful gorilla conservation is the involvement of local communities. In regions where gorillas live, conservation efforts often succeed when local people are actively involved and benefit from the protection of wildlife. This is particularly true in places like Rwanda, Uganda, and the Democratic Republic of Congo, where gorilla tourism has become a major economic driver. Tourism's role. Gorillas are an enormous attraction for eco-tourists, and trekking to see gorillas in the wild has become a popular and sustainable source of income for local communities. In Rwanda, for example, tourists pay high fees for the privilege of seeing mountain gorillas in Volcanoes National Park. These funds are then used to support the park's conservation efforts, protect the gorillas, and provide jobs to local people in areas like hospitality, guiding, and transportation. Human-gorilla conflict. While tourism can bring economic benefits, human-gorilla conflict can also arise, especially when gorillas venture into human settlements in search of food. Farmers in gorilla habitats may experience crop damage due to gorillas foraging on their land. In response, conservationists work with local communities to find ways to mitigate these conflicts, such as offering compensation for lost crops, creating buffer zones, or educating locals about the benefits of living alongside wildlife. Capacity building. Education and job creation are key components of these community-based conservation programs. Local people often become the frontline protectors of gorillas, working as park rangers or involved in ecotourism ventures. This provides them with economic incentives to support conservation, while also ensuring that the local population takes ownership of their natural resources. Gorilla interaction with humans and culture. Symbol of strength and wisdom. Throughout history, gorillas have been symbols of strength, wisdom, and even mystery. In many African cultures, they are revered as powerful animals, associated with ancestral spirits or gods. The Bantu people, for instance, consider the gorilla as a protector and a symbol of power and intelligence. The most famous gorilla in popular culture is King Kong, who represents both the terrifying and the tragic aspects of nature when pitted against humans. Over time, however, gorillas have also come to symbolize vulnerability and intelligence, rather than brute force alone. Movies like Gorillas in the Mist, based on Dion Fossey's work, helped shift the narrative to one of conservation and emotional connection with these animals. Emotional connections. Films and documentaries have increasingly highlighted the emotional and intellectual depth of gorillas, emphasizing their family dynamics, their capacity for grief, and their complex social structures. This has created a stronger emotional connection between people and gorillas, motivating many to support conservation efforts to protect them. Famous gorilla stories. Some individual gorillas have become celebrities in their own right. Koko, the western lowland gorilla who was taught sign language, became a global symbol of gorilla intelligence. Koko's ability to communicate in American Sign Language, including expressing emotions like grief over the death of her pet cat, demonstrated the complex emotional lives of gorillas, and sparked much public interest in their welfare. Other famous gorillas. Binti Jua, a female gorilla at the Brookfield Zoo in Chicago, gained fame after she saved a child who had fallen into her enclosure in 1996. The story of BintiWaz.com and protective behavior demonstrated the gorilla's nurturing instincts, which in turn led to greater public empathy for these animals. The future of gorillas, ongoing challenges and hope. Genetic diversity. One of the ongoing concerns for gorilla populations, especially those in isolated habitats like the Cross River gorillas, is the risk of inbreeding due to the small number of individuals. Genetic diversity is crucial for maintaining a healthy population, and without it, the species may be more susceptible to disease or environmental changes. Conservationists are working on strategies to manage these populations and preserve genetic diversity through careful monitoring and, in some cases, translocating individuals to new areas to help reduce the effects of inbreeding. Global collaboration for gorillas. Global organizations, such as the International Gorilla Conservation Program (IGCP), are working across borders to protect gorillas. They coordinate conservation efforts across countries, as gorillas often live in regions that span multiple national boundaries. International collaborations are also vital in tackling threats such as illegal hunting, deforestation, and the illegal wildlife trade. Climate change and future threats. The changing climate presents a new challenge for gorilla habitats. As temperatures rise and rainfall patterns change, forests may be affected, impacting food sources and habitat availability. This can lead to more competition for resources and increased human encroachment on gorilla territories. As climate change accelerates, conservationists are developing strategies to monitor the effects and adapt conservation plans to keep pace with these changes. Conclusion: protecting a legacy. Gorillas, with their immense strength, deep intelligence, and complex social structures, are far more than just an attraction in zoos or a subject for scientific research. They are living relatives, guardians of their ecosystems, and symbols of the natural world's rich complexity. The future of gorillas depends on a balanced approach that addresses human-wildlife conflict, protects their habitats, and encourages responsible, sustainable tourism while also ensuring their well-being in the wild and in captivity. Their ongoing conservation is not just about protecting a species, but about preserving a part of our own heritage, a reminder of how connected we are to the rest of the natural world.